Ladies and gentlemen, meet Rawan Osman. You've just met Rawan, and isn't she amazing? Just as amazing in real life as we'll see right now. We're going to do a little question and answer panel with Rawan. First of all, I'm going to introduce two other amazing people to join Rawan. Rawan, I met only about a year ago. She contacted me after October 7th because, as you saw in the film, she wanted to start speaking out to the Arab world and the Muslim world in Arabic about Israel and the Jewish people, and she needed help. And she was told, go to my organization, Open Door Media, and maybe they can help because we know what we're doing over there with social media. And Rawan reached out to me, and it's been a very fruitful relationship that includes this film and many other incredible projects. Rawan is a content creator using her voice to build bridges and challenge misconceptions between Arab countries and Israel. She fearlessly shares her insights through multiple platforms, reaching Middle Eastern and international audiences alike, leveraging her unique perspective shaped by her Arab background and study of Judaism. Rawan's unwavering commitment to truth and dialogue continues to inspire change and promote peace across the Middle East. We're very happy to have you. And our next special guest, you met earlier, Rabbi Shalom Schwartz, was my first rabbi when I was just getting involved in Judaism myself in Toronto. I was studying at the University of Toronto, and Rabbi Schwartz was my first rabbi because he had just established Aish in Toronto. And we became close, and at that time I was studying anti-Semitism, and already Rabbi Schwartz was a mentor of mine. Reb Shalom is an innovative values educator who's devoted his life to awakening and empowering the Jewish people to fulfill our mission of being a light unto the nations. He founded the Aseret movement, which aims to establish the Ten Commandments as a central element of Israeli national identity and unify Jews everywhere through the core values of the Ten Commandments. Please welcome Reb Shalom. And our third panelist in from South Africa is the director of the film, Wayne Kopping. I first met Wayne, thank you. I first met Wayne in the year 2000 when someone told me I could make a feature documentary film for $25,000, and I didn't know better. So I said, does anybody around here know anyone who can make a film and not get paid much money? And I looked into the Aish Torah Beit Midrash, and there were two young filmmakers, Wayne Kopping and Brian Spector, who's also here, and they made a beautiful film, my first film, a little over 20 years ago, called Relentless, The Struggle for Peace in the Middle East. Now, Wayne, before that, was a host on South Africa's most popular live kids TV show, and later became its youngest writer and director. Over the past 24 years, Wayne has directed and edited 7 feature-length documentaries with me, along with countless short films and specials, including the award-winning film Obsession, Radicalism's War Against the West. Please welcome Wayne Kopping. Okay, my first question is to Rawan, because as I said, I've done about 25 screenings across North America in the last couple months. And the first question everybody asks, and sorry we're not letting you ask it, but I'll ask the question that everybody always wants to know, is, Rawan, what happened to you? How did this happen? What is your story? And so, if you could you tell us a little bit about what began your journey?
Happily, and thanks to all of you, especially to those who partook in making this amazing project. As some of you might know, I'm half Syrian, half Lebanese, so I grew up in an anti-Semitic surrounding. I like to identify as a recovered anti-Semite. My Israeli friends say, don't say this about yourself, you're better. No, I'm not. And if we're going to cure a disease, we have to have the correct diagnosis. I happened to land in my mid-20s in the Jewish quarter near one of the biggest synagogues in the world, in France, Strasbourg. And the first time I saw Jews, the first day I had a panic attack. And I'm not the fearless type. I was very embarrassed because I couldn't breathe and I was sweaty and I wanted to understand why. And with time I understood that my panic attack was caused by the fact that I was sharing the same space for the first time with the enemy, the Jew. And I went on a journey to understand why was the Jew my enemy. And here I am today, a recovered anti-Semite, after many coincidences in my life that led me to the realization that the Jews are not that bad after all. I'm pretty sure. I'm certain.
Rawan. And I'm sure, even with that answer, we asked Rawan to speak quickly because she can go on and on with her personal story. And,
Not a complaint.
and that is a compliment, and it's an amazing story. And we're going to be here afterwards. We're going to hang out after this, after we're done with the panel. We're going to invite all of you to join us at a reception upstairs, and we will be here there to continue schmoozing. Reb Shalom, you are the executive producer of this film, not only because you undertook the responsibility to make it and to help raise the money for it, but because it was your vision and you came to me with an idea to make this film. Can you share with us what your vision was, what your motivation, why you thought this was an important film to make?
I'll try. October 7th was a traumatic moment for the world, certainly for all of us here in Israel and the Jewish people around the world. On the one hand, those of us that believe in God, it was a wake-up call from the Almighty. What the nature of the wake-up call is, what the specific message of the wake-up call, one can discuss. But the level of looking at things differently, that there's a pre-October 7th world and a post-October 7th world, was clear to many of us. And I felt it deeply, not only because it was the first time I had my son go out to war in active combat in Gaza, and that changes you, but because the world appeared different. Because a statement in the Haggadah that we read as a sentence every year became so palpable in every generation, Kamim Aleinu Lechaluteinu. And we say it at the Haggadah. Every generation, somehow there's those that want to annihilate the Jewish people. So we read it as a sentence, we take it as some sort of a historical observation. But after October 7th, and especially after October 8th, when the world erupted with anti-Semitism worldwide, it was a palpable reality. So my own process was, what do we do? I mean, those that were fighting on the front lines, it was clear what they were doing. Those of us that weren't, what's our role? What are we supposed to? And I reached out to friends, and I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine in the United States, and he said that he was avoiding his non-Jewish friends because they were so despicable. They were talking about Israel as a genocide. He was avoiding them. And he said to me, I don't know why I'm surprised. I said, what do you mean, Jack? He said, well, I know there's anti-Semitism, and I guess I shouldn't be surprised. There was anti-Semitism, there is anti-Semitism, and there'll always be anti-Semitism. I said, Jack, I actually don't agree with that. And this was one of the turning points for me because I had 40 years ago when we were discussing this, I became aware of the fact that there's a meaning to anti-Semitism. It's not some random force of history. It's not something that we have to be victimized, but it actually has a meaning and a purpose. And if Jews around the world, when you ask them, why do they hate us? And I went through Israel, we did interviews, we asked people, why is there anti-Semitism? And people would say, I don't know. It just is. Esav, son of Yaakov, they would quote the Torah as some sort of immutable truth that anti-Semitism always exists. And that's not the way I learned it. And so it upset me. What do you mean? There's something about anti-Semitism that's meant to be a catalyst for a reawakening of the Jewish people. A wake-up call to what? And that's where the connection became obvious. The Aseret movement was there, is there, to unify the Jewish people around our core mission, to be a light unto nations. And if the root of anti-Semitism, paradoxically or ironically or however you want to view it, is actually both the root cause and the root to our response, the root solution to anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is caused by Sinai and is resolved by Sinai. If it's there to remind us that we have a mission for ourselves and for humanity, then that has to be what October 7th awakened us to. And at that point I realized that at least my role could be to awaken people to that. And I sat with Raphael, and Raphael and I, Raphael has an expertise in this area over 40 years. My expertise in the last period has been about the Aseret that he brought, the 10 Commandments, and how the 10 Commandments are the core values of our fulfilling of that mission, to be a light unto nation. So it seemed like a natural fit. And I understood that the creation of this film, Be'ezrat Hashem, can be a paradigm shift. That if we're frozen by not understanding anti-Semitism or not realizing the meaning of these events, then a understanding of anti-Semitism, and in particularly understanding how that guides our response at this time, that can be an empowerment of the Jewish people. It can be a moment of transformation to become what we want to become, who we need to become. And of course that's happened. It's not because of the film, it's because of the reality. Every soldier that goes to battle to defend the Jewish people and defend the world is actually standing up in the name of the mission of the Jewish people, in the name of that sacred morality that we were given at Sinai.
A humorous anecdote to that, when Reb Shalom came to me with the idea and said, come, let's make this film, my answer was no. But thank God he changed my mind and we made the beautiful film. Thank you, Reb Shalom, for pushing me.
Remember you saying that?
No, I remember. Wayne.
Oh, hi, sorry.
Wayne, I got two questions and one for you. First question
Do I
is...
get all the time or same amount of time?
Whatever you want, whatever you want. How long did it take you to make this film, number one? And number two, I know that you just did a series of film screenings in South Africa, so where you got to experience for the first time how the film is impacting people when they watch it. So what struck you about the impact that our film is making?
Thank you. And can I just say thank you to everyone who came tonight. And can I also acknowledge just the courage and intellectual courage of Rawan. And so I want to acknowledge that. So how long did it take us to make this film? It took about 20 years to make this film. And I'm not being glib. It took 20 years. And the reason I say that is you alluded to the first film that we made, Relentless, Radical Islam's War Against Israel, and or Radical Islam's Search for Peace. Oh, I forget the subtitle. It was 24 years ago. The Struggle for Peace in the Middle East. Thank you. There was Rav Shalom, Rav Shaw, myself, and Brian Spector, and we were two young. We were in yeshiva, and there were two rabbis, and we were all frustrated. I think all of us were frustrated because we were making a film, a great film about the problem of the Intifada. But we didn't have there wasn't a way for us to tell the Jewish story. It was an Israel-Palestinian story that I think was based on one of your presentations, and it was incisive and it was excellent, but we all left the project, I think, feeling like something was missing. And after we started making this film, it occurred to me that this film, I think, was the missing piece, or we closed the circle, because we were able to tell the Jewish side of what these things mean. We've made all these films about why do they hate, This is a film about why do they hate us, and it's a very different story. So that's why I think it took 20 years to make, and it's a real blessing to be able to be here now. And the second question about the takeaway, we had Jews and many non-Jews. We had someone invited like 12 black Christian pastors that represented many, many churches in South Africa. And they were blown away by the message, and they were blown away by how important it is to not only support the Jews, but also they understood that this is a message for everybody. Like, this film has a universal message, whether you're Jewish, whether you're not Jewish. Just like the Sersa Dibros, as you say, is not just for the Jewish people. And the most encouraging thing was when they said they want to take it to their communities. And we also had Jews that want to take it to their communities. So that was the most gratifying thing, and I think the idea is that this film, I think we would all agree, is a gift to the world, and it's up to the world now to take it and use it for the purposes that it's supposed to be used for.
I think we've all seen it. It was a great film, no? Congratulations to Wayne. And it's a team effort. It's a team effort for sure, but this was a passion project, and I'm going to ask Wayne about that next. And what Wayne said also was fascinating, and just to add a little color to that. I started 2 organizations. One was the Clarion Project to kind of alert the world, educate the world about the threat of radical Islam, and we made many films and had a lot of success doing that. But then I started another organization called Open Door Media, it used to be Jerusalem Youth, to educate Jews and inspire Jews about being Jewish in Israel. We could not associate the 2 organizations together. We still don't, but you'll notice in this film, the 2 ideas come together. And that is because the world has changed. And as Reb Shalom said, I've been sitting on some of these ideas for 40 years. And it was only 3-4 years ago that I started writing the book, and only a year ago that we actually started to make the film. And it's because the world has shifted, as Reb Shalom says. The world has shifted. There's an openness now. There's an opportunity for people to hear and understand in the Jewish people and non-Jewish people in a new way. And as a result, we can say things directly, clearly, in a way that we didn't before. And so that's what we intended when we made this film. We think that we've done a good job, and we are optimistic that we will hopefully get this film seen by millions of people. Rawan, the film is a little ambiguous about you, especially that last scene. Everybody wants to know, what's going on with Rawan? She's lighting the Shabbos candles. We saw her tonight light the shamash. What's your Jewish story, Rawan?
Yes, I think that last scene was intentionally ambiguous thanks to the genius of Wayne. I was an atheist all my life, and it's really easy to be an atheist in the Middle East when you observe all the injustice. Add to that my father is Sunni, my mom is Shia, and they sent us to a French Catholic school. And every group told us the others are lying. Your instinct as a child is to conclude they're all lying. So I had nothing to do with religion. We celebrated all the holidays. My parents were secular, and I did not lack on morality because religion was irrelevant in my life. Only when the refugees came to Europe, they made our life easier, not because they merely existed, but because Syrian refugees were coming in the millions to Germany, where the reconciliation was ongoing between the Germans and the Jews. And that reconciliation was now being jeopardized. I dare say this, you can't, you'll be called racist, but I can say I'm a Syrian who lived for 4 years in Syria. I bought Mein Kampf for less than $1 US. And the Syrians think the Protocols of the Elders of Zion is a serious book. I knew that at least 1 million men who came over to where I was living are anti-Semitic and misogynist. So it was easy to understand that I cannot divorce the Middle East. It's part of who I am. I cannot just move to Europe and forget about it. I admit that I considered moving to New Zealand or Canada, and my friends told me it's the same, so there's no point. I had to find the courage to fight for the Middle East, which is part of me. And I sold my business in Germany and decided to solve the Middle East problem. And I'm not joking, I always tell it in Europe and people think I'm kidding. Plus, when I'm somewhere in Europe and politicians say, okay, this is our vision for the next 5 years, this is what we're going to do, you know, it's realistic. We're not solving the Middle East problem. I always interrupt and say, not funny. Because the Middle East problem can be solved, because back where I come from, people are dying, and you have a moral obligation to try and solve the problem. Now I decided to do it and get people to help. I went back to university and studied Islam from a neutral academic perspective to understand what's the problem with the Muslims. And then I went to study Jewish studies to understand what's the problem with the Jews. And one day, after taking many classes with the funniest, adorable Jewish rabbi convert, Swedish, it just hit me. The stars aligned. Upon a very ordinary statement, I realized now the world makes sense to me. All these coincidences I always dismiss because I'm a rational person. I'm an atheist, or at least I was labeled an atheist, suddenly made sense. Judaism made sense to me. I related. And when I understood, when I internalized that event and understood all these coincidences, that they were merely stones showing me the way back home. It was Hashem showing me the light. I went to the rabbis and I told them, I'm converting to Judaism. I'm a Jew, but out of respect, I'm going to go through the process because tradition preserved Judaism. And if you'd like to be part of my journey, I'll be happy. So this is what I've been doing. I want to convert, I want to make Aliyah, live in Jerusalem. That's what I thought. Yay. Thank you. That applause I'll take. And the first time I visited Jerusalem, the first time I visited Israel after October 7th, on the 1st of the 1st, 2024, I went to Jerusalem, I went to the Kotel to test all these ideas I had. And I stood there and I couldn't even pray because I haven't learned it yet. And the only word that crossed my mind, because I was trying to speak to Hashem, what am I going to say? And I couldn't think of anything, not in English, not in German, not in Arabic. And I remembered something I learned, one word, Hineni. And I didn't know what I'm going to do, but this emunah I had that led me, I was going to trust it and let it lead the way, and here we are, my life transformed thanks to Judaism. And let's see when we're going to see peace in my lifetime in the Middle East. B'ezrat Hashem.
We're all rooting for you, Rawan. Kol hakavod. Shalom, as you know, we made Relentless, we made Obsession, we've made a lot of films about anti-Semitism. And the Jewish people are seriously focused on anti-Semitism. What are your thoughts about the balance that the Jewish establishment, the philanthropic world, the Jewish people have on the problem of anti-Semitism? Do you think it's appropriate? And what do you think? What do you suggest? It's a pretty wide question.
Elie Wiesel, in addition to, I once asked him, how does he feel about being a symbol of the Holocaust, of survival of the Holocaust, of memory? And he said to me, Shalom, at that time I think he had 40 books that he had already published, think before he died he had 65, but he said to me, take a look at the list of books that I wrote. Very few of them are about the Holocaust. They're about Judaism. They're about Hasidic masters. They're about life, not death. When he was asked to speak at the inauguration of the Yad Vashem expansion in 2005, I just saw this today, he said the following, and I hope I'm quoting it properly. He said, people will not agree with what I'm going to say now. Probably not agree. People explain this is all about humanity's inhumanity to humanity, to each other, to mankind. So this is about man's inhumanity to Jews. How is it possible that we have Holocaust museums all around the world and that we have Holocaust studies all around the world and nobody actually explains the traditional root cause of anti-Semitism? It's mind-boggling. It's unbelievable when you think about it. I mean, I was exposed as a kid, but it took me to go to yeshiva to find out, yeah, Sinai, Hitler, conscience, the Jewish people, conscience of humanity. How is it possible that that's still the case? There's a massive ignorance of this core idea that Bezrat Hashem, now that we've woken up on some level, this could be transformative. Imagine every Holocaust museum showing this film and having a whole course based on Raphael's book, based on the Ten Commandments, to be a positive affirmation of what the meaning of anti-Semitism is. We're waiting for this time. Anybody out there who has connections with that the infrastructure's there, the recognition that we have to understand that there is a reality of anti-Semitism is known to every Jew. If he's not now, he's being awakened to it daily. But what's its inner meaning? It's to wake us up to our mission. And if we would get that core clarity, we would transform the entire Jewish people and the world, for that matter. And that's the goal, as we're so encouraged by, I get such strength from being with Rawan. She gives us all hope that a person can get out of their brainwashing, can get out and see a clarity and take action that actually moves us closer to the world that we all dream of.
Wayne, I mentioned before, but people don't appreciate it because I haven't shared with them, but Wayne was hired to be the director of the film. By the way, when I hired him, I wasn't expected to be in the film, but he forced me to be in it. And he was hired to be a director of film. When you hire a director, he does the work that he's hired to do. Wayne, he doesn't work that way, especially in this film. He was working day and night, countless extra hours pouring in to get it perfect, to make it beautiful, to express the ideas carefully, succinctly, clearly, because he had, Wayne, you had a sense that you were doing something important. Can you share with us why this was such a passion project for you?
Can I answer his question rather? It's an easier question. I remember hearing, I'm not sure if it's a Talmudic statement, there are many rabbis on stage and in the audience, I'm not sure what the source of it, but I think the source of it, the line is something like, there's no simcha like the removal of doubt. What's the Aramaic? They missed the first part. Ein simcha?
Yeah, there's no simcha like hatarata sveikot.
There's no joy like the removal of doubt. To move a person from a place of doubt to a place of understanding is a simcha. And when we were speaking about the vision for the film and the content and the material, I got a sense there was something so important about this, because we had made all these other films about, we were always speaking around the issue, but this was speaking about the issue. I remember we made another film. Shoshana Palatnik was the producer on another film we made called Kids Chasing Paradise. And after one of the interviews, one of our interviewees said he lost his father was murdered, and this man was speaking about that there's good in this world and there's evil in this world. There's good and evil. And I remember Shoshana and I talking about how those lines were so powerful, but there's no way we could use those lines in this film because good and evil is relative. So we could never even use those words. And now we come to this film, and I think Rawan uttered probably the greatest line in cinema history, which is said, Hitler didn't kill the Jews because they were bad, he killed them because they were good. I mean, that's a level of clarity that you only get to once you get to a certain point of understanding, and that's the simcha. I understood that we were doing something that was a hug, it was building bridges, and so that's why I was so passionate about this and why I was so grateful to be on this project.
An awesome job. Two more questions, and then I will say a little something about the book, and then we'll have a nice reception. Rawan, it would be a disservice to the audience here, because you are from Syria and Lebanon, for us not to ask for your insights into what's gone on in the news in the last month or so. Quite a dramatic shift, and everybody here is wondering, is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Should we be celebrating? Should we be worried? Could you give us your insights as someone from there?
Yes. This was planned, this trip, without us knowing what's going to develop in Syria. On October 7th, I stood by the Israelis. To me, it was so clear you have to choose a side. And I came here without a but, and I started advocating without a but. The first time some of my Israeli friends broke my heart, and I don't cry easily, I grew up in the Middle East, I have thick skin, is when they were offering their condolences for the fall of Assad. This man deserves the trophy of the monster of the century. What you've seen so far from Saidnaya prison, etc., is the tip of the iceberg. I love Judaism, and I am impressed by the Jewish people because this emunah preserved something so universal, this morality, the light, the torch you carry. You shouldn't doubt what's so clearly right. Assad deserves to be hung. He's gone. You say congratulations to the Syrian people from a humanitarian point of view. And when I said this, some of my Israeli friends who know me thought I'm condoning or endorsing Islamists. Anything is better than Assad. We can deal with al-Julani. I would never trust him. I would never trust his team. They're all former ISIS and Qaeda members. I'll tell you what I already said on TV. I hope that doesn't upset al-Julani much. He has a superpower, this man. He's amazing. He can be in the same place with all his jihadist friends, all of them in the same spot. If necessary, a military action can take them out. Two rockets, they're gone. Don't worry about that. Syria will never transform into Afghanistan. Syria is not Egypt. The demographics are different. The situation of religion in both countries is different. The terrain is different. You cannot compare Afghanistan to Syria. What's happening is massive, is a miracle. What happened in Lebanon is a miracle. What's happening in Syria is unbelievable. They seized an opportunity thanks to Israel that was possible. I'm not implying that, I'm grateful. I'm not implying that Israel initiated that, but it enabled it by beating Hezbollah up in Lebanon. So what happened is fantastic. I am very optimistic, And I do believe that if we are concerned, and everybody from the taxi driver to so-called experts share the same opinions, I'd like you to relax and think that if we are aware of the risks, real experts are, and intelligence services around the globe are watching Syria with a microscope. Al-Julani had a task to do. That's, in my humble opinion, that's what happened. And when it's over, it's just an interim, a transitional period. He will take his guys, disappear, will remove them, it'll be solved. Syria will be a secular country. One last thing I'd like to share with you, because you wouldn't know, how would you know? When the war was about to end in Lebanon, I desperately wanted to know, are the Lebanese thinking that the Israelis are monsters attacking them now, like I used to think when I was a teenager? Or do they understand that Hezbollah should be accountable? So I started a TikTok account, a platform, even while working with Open Door Media, we gave up on, because it is the most anti-Semitic platform. And all my following are Arabs. I even post without English subtitles, Arabic with my Magan David, talking about peace with Israel. And I was surprised that the Lebanese want peace with Israel. They want to see Beirut looking like Dubai, not like Gaza. Things started in Syria. I started speaking to the Syrians. And I was beyond surprised when I congratulated them. Thousands of Syrians they can see peace with Israel. So I invite you to envisage, to imagine, and talk about peace. If we cannot even imagine it, how are we ever going to achieve it? So have some faith, and you might be surprised. We will witness a new Middle East sooner than I ever imagined.
Shalom, we want to bring this panel discussion to a conclusion and bring everyone to the reception. So this is also the launch of my book that I was working on for 3.5 years. And you were with me when I started to study this 40 years ago, and you were a beta reader. Can you just explain a little bit about what the book means to you and how it relates to the film and how it's different than the film, and if it's any good?
What a good question. I just finished reading the book for the second time. The first time it wasn't complete. I bought a copy, and I got 10 copies and given them all out, actually. It is a book that can change your life. It brings you through the entire ideological issues, the intellectual issues, the historical background. It gives you an opportunity to think about it in a much more systematic way than the film could do and the film wouldn't do. So it allows you to process the central messages in this film, albeit there needs to be a Serit sequel to the book, which isn't quite there, but the messages at the end of the individual stories of people who really did respond to October 7th with a reawakening, a tragic awakening of their own Jewish identity, of their commitment to, in many cases, Shabbat, in many cases, standing up with an understanding of their own relationship to the Jewish people's mission. Range of stories, Jews and non-Jews, who join in this mission to bring the world to a different place. And the book does that masterfully. I salute you. I can't imagine how you made that. I mean, obviously, October 7th was a pivotal. When we spoke and you said you were working on this book, the one thing I'll just add is that there's an urgency that the film conveys. I think you and I, Raphael, a little bit, I feel the sense of, get the book now, today, read it. There's a need to act with a sense of urgency. We're in a war still. We're in an evolving situation. Every moment makes a difference. Our prayers make a difference. Our appreciation of the miracles that Hashem is bringing us through makes a difference. Our standing up in the name of our Aseret that he brought to challenge the lies that are out there makes a difference. And the book is one major contribution to that, because we need to learn about it. We need to take this subject seriously. Read the history, read about it, read Raphael's book, study the Aseret that he brought, create learning groups. We have a workshop that follows the film that allows people to begin the process of of processing it. It's not meant to be an experience. It's meant to be a call to action. We need a movement to change, and the book is an important contribution to that. And we invite other people, write your books. There's so many journalists here. There's so many writers. There's filmmakers here. Go out and make your own films on this subject. We need to create a movement of information, of thought, of challenging, of changing the discussion, to awaken that connection to the meaning of anti-Semitism and to give us the clarity and the courage that we get from Rawan. I want to send Rawan on a tour to encourage Aliyah around the world. One of the wake-up calls that we have is to come back home, right? This is, I'll get my wife to speak about this in a minute, but the idea that we want to bring all the Jews home. This is the time to come home, to fulfill our mission. We don't fulfill our mission as individuals, we fulfill as a nation in the land of Israel. So Raphael addresses that as well in his book, and I want to encourage all of you to be a part of this movement, the Jewish people movement, to fulfill our mission.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Shalom. I appreciate that very much. And so I'm going to, on that beautiful recommendation, I'm going to be upstairs. If anybody wants to buy the book, I'll be signing copies for you. I just want to acknowledge and thank some people. First of all, Hashem for giving me the Siyata D'Shmaya. And I saw the Siyata D'Shmaya all the way from 40 years ago. I want to thank a lot of people who were beta readers and supporters. Ken Michel, Shmuel Levine, Rabbi Willis, Reb Shalom, Ken Spiro, the Palatniks, Aryeh Rosenzweig, many of that you guys are here. My publisher, Yael Maoz, is here. My wife is here, who allowed me to work really hard for the past 3.5 years. Thank you. And also thank briefly the organizers of tonight's program, starting with Ahuva Shore, Ahuva Events. Doing a very classy job. The Aseret team, the PR team, Dina and Jeremy Wimpheimer, all the volunteers, and of course, again, the staff of the Museum of Tolerance, Jerusalem. Thank you very much. Thank you for being with us tonight. Please come and join us for the reception. And we are also open for everybody to be a part of this movement and bring the film to your community. We can discuss that with you. So please come on upstairs, and we'll go to...
She's buying 10, and I want to make sure nobody buys